Please tell us more about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Danielle Spinelli. I am currently at Descartes for My Care Portal at MacroPoint, and also a host of podcasts called Tell Me Everything, where I do Fraud Girl Fridays, kind of educating people about fraud, and as well as talking to industry leaders on my podcast. Prior to all of that, I was a broker, carrier sales rep for about 8 years. So really was I did high value freight, so was really well versed in actually doing like fraud prevention and stuff. So that's kind of what led me into my career now. And here I am.
I'm so glad to know that, and that sounds indeed very inspiring. Fraud Girl, that sounds like an awesome name. You are definitely doing a lot of work there, and I am sure I have a lot to learn from you by being the host of Tell Me Everything podcast. Firstly, please tell our audience more about your podcast. I'm really excited to know about it.
Yeah. So tell me everything. So it's kind of like two pieces of it. Tell me everything is more of the kind of interviewing industry leaders, just kind of getting to know people's backstory. I think a lot of times people will come on here just talk about business the whole time, and we don't really get to know the people behind it. So I kind of wanted to have like a podcast that I'd listen to, just one that were having fun and talking and really getting to know people. And that's kind of what Tell Me Everything kind of got started. And then the Fraud Girl, I was kind of named that in the industry. And my great friend Nate Johnson made me like a superhero shirt and hat and all this stuff at a conference. And then
Yeah.
I was like, hey, let's run with it. So started the Fraud Girl series on my podcast. And so it's been really great because I can really focus in on, at first I was like, this is probably gonna be a short series. But then as I'm even digging more into fraud, there's so much different layers. There's so many different layers in fraud that really I could talk on it forever. So each month I kind of do a different segment on the different versions of fraud. Like this month we're doing on BOL manipulation and cluster theft. Last month was cybersecurity. So kind of just digging deep into it, and then having I like to have some of the top industry people in that specific area come on and kind of give their expertise too. So it's been really fun.
Wow, that actually sounds so interesting and so cool. I'm definitely gonna watch the upcoming episode of Tell Me Everything super soon. And talking about Fraud Girl, so how is this Fraud Girl title that came up? That was a whole journey that took you to becoming that awesome identity that you are today. Please tell us more about that and how did your journey in logistics help you to become one?
Yeah. Um, Great question. So really my background in logistics, because I was in the trenches and I kind of know the lingo, and I've dealt with all the different types of fraud out there. I've had loads stolen. I've had all those things happen. So because I think
Mhm.
I have that firsthand knowledge whenever I speak to other brokers, carriers, shippers out there, it's not, like I said, kind of can talk the talk a little bit just because I've done it.
Yeah.
And so kind of my whole journey was whenever I started with my care portal, I went to my first conference was Manifest, and I had at the time my friend Meg Boaz, she popped me in front of a camera and was like, "Hey, we want you to talk and say everything about my care portal." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I've never done this before, but here we go." And so ever since then, she really pushed me, and we did, sort of webinar series for my care portal, and then kind of got a lot more stage time as time went on. So really within 1 year, I went from kind of knowing nobody to knowing so many people just because of conferences, and really, having great people in the industry introduced me to great people, and kind of just leaning in on everybody I know and building a network. So that's kind of where everything got started and how it blossomed and kind of honestly blew up within the past year and a half. Like it's been a wild journey, so it's been really fun. And then the Fraud Girl, I kept hearing that like through every time I'd go somewhere, they'd be like, "Oh, look, it's the girl that knows about fraud," or "Oh, look, it's the Fraud Girl." So then like everyone kept calling me Fraud Girl. And then like I said, Nate
Wow.
Johnson. I know Nate
But
Johnson gave me the
isn't that
title.
so awesome?
It's
Yeah,
so
it's
awesome.
so
It was
awesome. Like your name actually came up from the audience. They were like, "Oh yeah, I recognize her. She's the fraud girl." And then you're just like, "Oh, okay, I love the title now."
I know. It was really fun. And it's funny because like I'll tell people, but I'm like, I promise I'm not just like self-proclaiming myself as this. This really people were
Yeah.
telling me this. So it's been really fun. And like like you just said, like just having people come up to me and be like, "Hey, I know you know about this, so tell me more." And I love the education piece of what I do. And kind of being able to learn from others and then, teach what I know as well. So it's been so fun.
That's actually so awesome. So, what exactly was your moment or your specific incident that made you realize that fraud prevention isn't just a task, it is a mission, it is something everyone needs to know about?
Yeah. So it really started off whenever I started with my care portal. At the time, we were building a lot of new innovative things for fraud. At that time, they didn't really have a lot of marketing. So whenever it was just me and Meg at the time, we were both like, how do we get this, all the stuff that we're working on that's really helping people? How do we tell even just our customer base? Like, how do we get them to know that? So we started webinars and kind of digging deep into how to use the product. And because I was a user myself, being able to talk on that, and then once that started, basically I learned that there's so many people that don't fully understand how to properly vet. It's not just like a yes or no. That we live in so much of a gray space in logistics. It's not black and white. So it's like, how do you navigate that gray space? And I think a lot of people really want products that only give you a white and black
True.
scenario,
Yeah.
but that limits your carrier base, that makes your margins higher. Like you're not able to effectively run a
Mhm.
business, especially if the market tightens, right? Like you need to know what to do in those cases. But the fraud is real. It does happen. Even though it is technically like 1% of all the logistics stuff that goes out there, it still affects people's pockets pretty deeply. So
Definitely.
I really, because of that, I've been able to, know like, okay, yeah, a lot of people, this happens to so many people. It is insane.
Yeah.
It's not just the big boys. It's everybody. So it's educating how to properly vet whenever you do have that gray area of a carrier where they look, I don't know if they're fraud or they're just not the best
True.
carrier. Like there's two totally different things
Yeah.
to look for. How do you filter that through? So yeah.
Wow, that actually sounds like something that really matters. The my favorite go-to statement for our sector is it's a need rather than a want. Like you need to know about these fraud prevention stuff and techniques. You can't just ignore it. And it's gonna cost you a lot of money if you actually do get into that whole area of being cheated on and stuff like that. So talking about what you just said, that it's not black and white, it's a gray area. So talking about logistics, so what are the most common red flags in the sector that brokers or shippers tend to overlook?
The biggest thing, honestly, is, and this part has been around for a long time, but it's knowing exactly who you're working with. So it's either knowing on an email level, is this person actually part of it, but then following up with a phone call. I think that's the biggest thing. FMCSA phone number. Hey, I just sent a read sheet. Can you confirm that you actually got it? Cybersecurity is pretty bad right now, where carriers are really getting fished, like heavily fished. So they're getting emails that look just like my care portal, for instance. They look just like our site, and if you're not checking the little tiny details, you're clicking on the link, you're giving your login information. And then from there, they can also, if it's the same as your Gmail account, they can get into your Gmail, and then they have your bank info. They have all sorts of stuff. So it's getting that cybersecurity part. But really, at the end of the day, you want to know who you're working with. If you do have something that does happen, if you can confirm that that is the carrier, that is the driver, getting like an insurance claim to pay out on something happening, is a higher chance. So that's at the end of the day, you want to know who you're working with. And I think a lot of people miss those steps where it takes that one simple little extra phone call, or that,
Yeah.
oh, I had a bad feeling about this, I should have dug deeper. It's always something little like that would have made a big difference. So
Definitely. And I actually see it. Like when I say the word fraud, my brain thinks of a very big, high level mishap that would happen rather than something as small as what you just mentioned, that a different fraud email ID, which I didn't bother to check maybe, and which
mhm.
led to my bank details getting leaked. And that can cost me a lot of money and a lot of future issues as well.
Yeah.
So, talking about what you just said, that knowing who you are dealing with, is that like your fraud prevention 101 tip for our audience, or the fraud prevention 101 is something else?
No, I would say that it starts with that. It starts with who are you
Mhm.
working with, and then from there it goes a little bit deeper into if they do have red flags. Kind of the hardest thing right now for any company to detect is whenever a carrier looks awesome on all fronts, like the carrier's done a great job, they decide to get out of the business. They sell their,
Mhm.
I guess, on Facebook, or who knows how they're selling these bad guys are finding these
Yeah.
guys, but they're finding them, they're giving them money, and they're buying their MC from them, and then even getting paid extra, like, hey, ship your phone to me, ship your computer, ship all these things to me. That way, I'm not having to change anything. So that
Mm-hmm.
those type of situations are really hard to find because the carrier looks great. It's the same phone number, it's the same email, it's not anything different. They're not reporting anything to
Yeah.
FMCSA. So it's really knowing not only who you're dealing with on the dispatcher level or who you're talking to book the load, but then also on the driver level, like who's showing up. And that's having a good relationship with the shipper. Some shippers are better than others at checking things. But like with my care pro, we have like a VIN verification, so you can verify that this driver's with his truck, he's here. You can give that information to your shipper and kind of well
Mhm.
arm the whole army, because it takes a village to kind of get this done.
Yeah.
Um, and so
True.
depending on the freight, especially if it's high value freight, it takes all those little extra steps.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but at the end of the day, it's really knowing who you're working with is the biggest thing.
If I like, if I can ask, what, so people are lazy. We can't deny the fact that no matter how much we try to make the awareness like a short possibility, it's still gonna be tough to ensure that they actually follow everything. So
Right.
what are gonna be like the top three major things to look out for when we are trying to avoid fraud?
Yep. Top three. Like I said, other than the email, verifying the email.
Mhm.
Other things is just really looking for any type of abnormalities. If you do have a platform that you're using, most of them out nowadays have like a map of where they've been running. So keep that map and like, okay, does this make sense with their history? Like, is it a lane that they've ran before according to this? And maybe it's where they went to a different area because the load ended up taking them there. But that's when you kind of dig deeper and have a more in-depth conversation. And then really just asking questions and talking to people. So many people want to do that email back and forth, which is fine. But I think even at that point, you need to drill a little bit in and follow up with that phone call. It's kind of those three big steps. A quick phone call here and there can really make a difference. And don't just give out a pickup number without knowing who you're dealing with. Like keep those hidden, keep that pickup number safe until you know for sure you're dealing with the right person.
Wow. Thank you so much, Danielle. That, to be honest, at least the calling and checking part is something that we can actually perform like this. It doesn't take that much time to ensure that I am actually in contact with the right person. There is no mix up, there is no fraud taking place, that what I'm dealing with is actually sure. So I think top three and top one can be the call because it doesn't take that much time. And all of us can actually practice that in real everyday purposes also when you are like sending some specific, say, medical documents or some specific certificates which are really confidential. We could just call and check if
Yeah.
it's the right person.
Right.
So thank you for letting us know that. And you have said that compliance isn't just about rules, it's about trust. So how do you balance the process-driven compliance with building strong career relationships?
Yeah, definitely. That's something I'm definitely very passionate about, just because I was a carrier sales rep for so long, and
Mhm.
that was part of my big initiative. Luckily, my boss was like this, where you got incentivized with having repeat carriers. So if I was using the same carrier over and over again, I had a relationship with them. I had a little bit of incentive on my end because I wasn't just posting and finding a new carrier. So I
True.
think the biggest thing with that is once you do find a carrier like that runs a
Mhm.
lane the right way, like they are communicating with you, they give you kind of all the things. It's having that next step into, hey, what lanes do you normally run? What's your fleet like? What type of freight do you guys normally do? And kind of like having just a conversation and building that
Mhm.
trust with each other, because carriers are getting screwed over just as much as
True.
brokers are. Same with
Yeah.
shippers. So they want to build a relationship with brokers to keep themselves safe.
Mhm.
So but like I said, it's at the point whenever you do know this guy's a good guy. He ran my load
Yeah.
perfectly. I want that relationship.
Mhm.
So it's taking the extra time, because I know there's time that is involved with that. A lot of drivers like to talk for a long time. So it's taking the extra time and getting to
True.
know them and build that trust.
Yeah. That's actually beautiful. And I think taking that little extra 2 minutes can go for a longer way in helping you build stronger networking as well. Like, I
Right.
feel that many of the people who are listening to your podcast, who might be a part of your podcast, might be the people that you have made that relationship when you're working as a career, like the broker then.
Right.
And that's really awesome. And talking about your podcast, firstly, it's awesome to see you performing so well in the sector. I am extremely fresh. It's just been what I started off on 27th of August. So it's just been 3, 4 episodes to me having released it. So I am definitely inspired by you, how beautifully you are functioning in the sector and talking about the whole process of hosting, talking to different people. How does it feel from being the expert in the sector to drawing out stories from other experts? And how has it changed your perspective on the industry?
I love that you bring this up because it really I went back and actually, and I have not been doing this long either, by the way. I started in June. So, but I
Oh,
went on so many, I know, as a host anyways. I started on coming on to so many podcasts. So I definitely was always the one that was answering all the questions. And so it
yeah.
was a total different mind shift in
Uh-huh.
how do I kind of quit talking so much and I just listen, because it's where that
True.
is hard for me too, where I want to say all the
Uh-huh.
things and I have an idea. So I want it to where I, just listen as much as I can. So that was probably my biggest shift. And, going back, if I listen back to my first episode, I'm like, oh, that's awful. And I'm sure 6 months down the road, a year down the road, I'll be feeling the same way about where I'm at today. But I think the biggest challenge and the biggest thing like I have to keep remembering is, I'm here for the guest. It's not like an interviewee type of situation. I don't want it to sound like I'm job interviewing him. I want to like really get to know this person. So I try to think
Yeah.
of it like I'm at a bar with this guy or person, and I
Wow.
just met them, and I'm like, hey, let's get to know each other.
Talk, yeah.
Yeah, let's just talk, and I want to know your whole life story. Tell me everything, right? That's where the whole show came from. So, that's
Exactly.
kind of the mindset I try to have whenever I am in host mode.
Wow, that's actually so awesome. And I'm gonna try to stick to that. But I think the major difference that you and me have is the fact that I am a freshie in the sector. I have no experience yet. So my main idea with the whole podcast was to just be the listener. Like, girl,
Yeah.
just shut up and just know as much as you can learn and understand from the guests, get their stories and ask questions which are just in your head. Because like for me, it's like I'm 22 right now, and I'm at that age where I have weird questions coming up. Like, why is this that way? Why is it so hard to survive in the sector? Why can't the men not do this? Like the whole rebellious side is also there. So I'm like, okay, I need to calm that down a little and to fix the tone.
Don't calm it
So,
down. Keep drilling into it. Everyone's thinking the same thing. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is like we're all thinking the same type of things. It's people that actually speak out and talk about it and don't just fall into a mold. Those are the ones that really branch out. And then it's also like my advice to you would just be like network, network, network. As many people as you can meet, as many connections they can have. Like, hey, thanks for connecting with me. This is kind of what I do. And then, who can you introduce me to? Stuff like that. Like it makes a big difference who you know in the industry. So
that is definitely true. And I think the fact that you have mentioned it twice kind of shows that it really is helping and working out so beautifully in your favor, than knowing so many people.
yeah.
And I'm definitely going to learn from it. Like, to be honest, right now, I'm just taking my chances. Like, I'm messaging people on LinkedIn going like, I do this. Would you be interested?
Yeah.
And I get yes sometimes. And then I think, of course, they are just so high level people. They tend to forget to respond back. And then I'm like, sorry, hi. And then I'm just
That's
like
perfect.
doing this. I'm like, I don't know if I should have just double texted like that. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm just gonna double text. That's okay.
That's why they're used to that. I mean, that's like it's basically like you're selling yourself. So
Yeah.
I am in sales as well. So that for me, it's like I'm good to go to pressure everybody and bombard them because I've been in sales for so many years. But I mean, sometimes it just takes that extra little nudge, like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
not just like a spammer here. I'm really wanting to do this. I'm really interested in talking to you.
Yeah.
So I think you're doing great.
That
Good
is
job.
so true. Yeah, I'm trying and I'm learning and talking about how awesome and a beautiful job, especially the topic that you're dealing with is like, again, it's a need that people need to know about how to deal with fraud. It's so
Yeah.
important, but at the same time, I feel it's a little serious topic. So, how do you ensure that you have that balance between providing education on such an important and serious topic and keeping people engaged in the whole podcast?
Um, yeah, I guess the best way that I would say or what I try to do is make it where there's a lot more instead of just like I cannot I have ADHD, so I cannot sit there in a conference and just sit there and listen to somebody speak when they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do it. I'm like, I can't do it. I gotta leave. Like I'll put my phone on record, I'll leave it in the room, and then I'll listen, I'll, have it transcribed for me. So I want it to be where whenever I'm listening to something, it's interactive. It's, somebody that's like kind of all over the place crazy. And then I think
Yeah.
I like to throw in images every now and then, or if I don't have a guest on, like I like to actually throw in some things to actually look at. Because I think knowing that real world examples makes a big difference. So it's not just like, hey, this is what you should do. This is like, hey, this is things that have actually happened. That storytelling piece makes it a lot more relatable.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do. I don't know if it's working or not, but yeah.
I think it's working because you're so successful. And the fact that you said it just went so viral and so amazing in the past few months, it definitely shows the progress that your storytelling is making on everyone.
Thank
And
you.
the way you are, you're bubbly, you're smiling, and you're confident. I think that does make a lot of difference when it comes to people wanting to listen to you. So, congrats and kudos on that one.
Thanks.
And logistics, the sector itself, it's like the way I have felt it. So it's just been 6 months to me having entered it, and all I hear is male dominated,
Mhm.
difficult to survive, and it's underrated sector. So these three things are the top prime things I am currently trying to deal with. So you have succeeded beautifully in building your own platform in a tough sector, male
Yeah.
dominated, and you have your own voice. How does it feel? And what were your lessons when you actually realized that, oh my God, officially a brand name in the sector?
It's still weird to even talk about because I have friends that are like, "Oh my God, you're great famous." I'm like, that is like cringy and I don't even want to know and whatever. But it is really cool seeing like my hard work kind of pay off. So like lately, whenever I go to a conference, I'll have somebody come up to me, they're like, "Oh my God, I learned this from you and this was so cool. I watched this and I saw you on this or I read this." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's actually making a difference. This is so cool." So it's
Yeah.
really like an honor to do it and so it's been a lot of hard work putting in like your personal brand. It's a lot of like digging in. And like you mentioned being confident. I am confident in a lot of way. Like I'm kind of my own cheerleader in the background, but sometimes it's where it's like, oh man, I feel like I'm doing all this for nothing. And just having those people behind you being like, no, you're actually killing it. You're doing this, having,
Yeah.
having me up right now. I'm like, let's go. So I think it's just having that support team to really keep your confidence
Mhm.
up, because sometimes like numbers will be, and it's hard to live on numbers. Like you can't just be like, oh,
Yeah.
I've had this many followers, or I've had this many hits on whatever,
Yeah.
impressions or whatever. It's a lot more than that, and it's also making sure like the type of content you create is personable. You're a person. And I hate looking at LinkedIn whenever it's like, oh, this brand is just pushing like a very old school marketing technique. You know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah.
clearly marketing. I don't care about that. I think a lot of like our generation is similar like that. Like it's like
Yeah.
I see whenever I'm clearly being marketed to, I hate that. Like let's just be real people out here. And at the end of the day, that's really all I want is just to have friends, and that's kind of the way I look at building a network. So
True. If it feels any better to you, when I saw your LinkedIn, I was like, oh my God, I am a little intimidated because she's so cool and so awesome. She's doing so much. And even your LinkedIn, it's like it keeps on moving. And I was like, oh my God, so different pictures coming up. Yeah.
it's
And
so
then I
cool.
was like, okay, I need to ensure my questions are really interesting because I'm sure she's an amazing guest. So I cannot have just boring questions where like it's just gonna be like, yeah, okay, I get the direct answer. I'm like, I need to have questions which are gonna be fun.
Yes. Well, I think you're doing. This has been great. So, and I think like you're doing a great job at like asking me questions that are not like the normal things, and
Uh-huh.
like being a woman in logistics. I know you brought that up too, like a male dominated industry. It. I've always been the type of girl where I've had way more guy friends than girls, and I think a lot of the women in logistics are like that, where we just kind of all get along with guys better than girls. And the type of because of that, the type of girls that are in logistics are ones that are like just the cool chicks. You know what I mean? They're not
Yeah,
like drama. They're not gossipy. They're just not like that. They're not like the mean girls. So
yeah,
I think leaning in on women mentors is huge. Like I had,
Crazy.
I had my like three big ones that I'm like, I really lean into. I always meet with. I want to talk to them. And so it's leaning into them, but then also knowing that it is a male dominated industry. So you
Yeah.
have to think, you have to kind of think of like you're one of the guys as well. You can't just create content just for the women because you won't have enough followers. Like you got to have it where
True.
you have content for
Yeah.
both. And it like even for me, like having like a pink background, I'm like,
Yeah.
they're probably some guys are probably like, oh my god, this is pink. Bye. So even then, I'm like, maybe I need to update my
Yeah.
background, but I still want to be me
True.
too at the same time. So yeah,
Yeah, that is so awesome. And to be honest, I love the advice that you gave me. So I'm like, at this one, my header, as soon that's what my friends pointed out. They're like, we know you, so we listen to the ladies and the logistics aspect because none of my friends are into logistics. I'm like, but you like me, so you listen.
yeah, yeah, that's
And
awesome.
when they listen, they're like, oh yeah, it's actually just generic. It's not exactly like you're dying to know about the sector. It's there, but at the same time, it's normal. I'm like, exactly. And then they're like, yeah, but when we read the word ladies and logistics, you're like, ah no, scroll. And I'm like, oh my god, that's rude. But I was like, that's such a realistic comment that they gave me that I was like, I don't know now how to fix this now because I think I've already gone with my brain thinking how am I gonna go ahead. So I'm like,
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes now.
I think honestly, it is a. I think there's enough men out there that do have strong women leaders in their
Uh-huh.
companies,
True.
or that are running the companies that they, respect it. There's the women in trucking, women in logistics, women in supply chain. There's so many
Yeah.
different women in whatever,
Forms. Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
they have enough followers too. Where I do think the ladies in logistics, even though it is not the dominant sector, there's still
Yeah.
a market out there. So I think you're doing great.
True.
Keep doing it. You're killing it.
I hope. Thank you. That's really kind of you. And talking about the interesting question, the next interesting question is if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one big misconception about fraud in logistics, what would that be?
That let's see, I would say that there's somebody has a silver bullet, like somebody's completely fraud proof. And I'm not
Mhm.
fraud proof, nobody is. They come up with new things all the time, and that's why you really need to be innovative and keep your
Yeah.
ear to the ground. And like not just saying it has to be my show on fraud, but like keeping up to date with whatever new fraud trends are. So that's staying up to date on whatever people have posted, and keeping up with like conferences and what they're talking about, or just keeping your ear in. And then not only
Mhm.
that, but those who are on the front lines and dealing with carriers and
Mhm.
dealing with fraud, it's okay. I wonder, this has been working, but I wonder if I can make it a little bit tougher by doing this without
Yeah.
bottlenecking my carrier. So there's a balance there, but nobody has a silver bullet. I've never heard of a company that's never had anything. A lot of times people have stopped them prior to something happening, but you're not completely foolproof. Nobody is. So I think that's a
Okay.
big misconception that, you're
There's
this
fraud
big, so
proof.
you're good. Yeah. Right.
And I think that's actually so true. Like for me, anytime I feel even a person, I meet a new person, I feel they're too nice. My brain is like, there has to be something, a little tiny flaw for me to feel they're normal. Because
Right.
there's no one is just gonna be so so perfect. And I think that's the same thing that applies. That just know a little bit that you feel normal about that specific contract or person.
Right.
And I think that I would like to correct you on one point. You said we don't have to listen to your podcast to know about fraud. But I think that's the most important thing we should do because fraud and fun both will come together only if we listen to your podcast. So I'm
Of
going to
course.
tell everyone please listen to my sweet Danielle Spinelli on her super awesome
I love
podcast.
it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think but it is, you're needing to keep your ear on the ground and stay up to date. And so those processes and stuff on your vetting should always be evolving. Those who are like, oh, we've been safe for so long, you got to keep
Yeah.
up to date. So it's eventually
Yeah.
that gets outdated. So that would be my big misconception that I think everyone should know.
Definitely. And that's actually a very, very big takeaway. It's like news, you need to know what keeps on happening in the world in general. And the
Right.
same way you should know what happens in the negative aspects, like the fraud aspect of what all is happening out there, who is getting cheated on, like in how way, and how is that fraud prevented to protect yourself from that specific thing happening for yourself.